What's good, guys, and back with another episode of Top 5. Now I know I said I'd do these kind of every 2 weeks and the last episode was like October or something, but hey, better late than never, right? Now before we get into today's episode, I actually have a bunch of comments from the last video that I promised I'd pick some out and address them on here, on my favorite ones, so let's go ahead and do that now. In the last video, we were talking about the top 5 reworks that I would like to see happen in the game. They've actually changed a little bit since then, but I wanted to know what reworks you guys wanted to see, and we had Super Brentis come in with the top comment on the whole video with what about Admiral Akbar? He needs a Zeta. And you know what, it's hard to argue with this. Akbar is a pretty iconic character. The Rebels could use some more options in lead. I mean, you've only really got, what, Jin, who's, you know, works well with Rogue One, but you don't really use her outside of the territory modes. Wedge, who's kind of old news. You don't really want to be using Leia or Stormtrooper Han or anything. Rolo's not that good, so really you're just left with Luke. So yeah, an Akbar rework with a Zeta would be, I think that'd be awesome. I think that'd be really, really good. One of the suggestions was it to work in a way like Bastila's, you know, a big tenacity boost with protection and somewhat, you know, paired with his mechanic where he already allows a bunch of extra moves when, you know, non-attacking specials are used. That could be meta. That could really compete with some of the top teams. Now for the second comment that really stood out to me from Tim Morin saying Stormtrooper needs some use, and I can't agree more. I'm one of the mugs with Zeta Stormtrooper. I mean, I didn't do it willingly. It was, you know, it was kind of, what do we do? We chucked all the names in a hat or something, and yeah, with the viewers on a live stream, and yeah, I ended up with a complete garbage Zeta. But, you know, regardless, Stormtrooper is, you know, surely he should be somewhat decent. He's like one of the worst tanks in the game. I mean, and then you add in his Zeta, which he just gets stronger as the rest of the team get dead. I mean, what use is that? And the third and final comment comes from Atomka. Says, I agree with your list, would add Kit Fisto and Plo Koon. Fisto is one of the best Jedi swordsmen, and Koon has incredible understanding of the Force. And without a doubt, I would agree with these, because Kit Fisto was in my original list before ending up getting bumped out of the top 5. Had it been a top 10, both would have been included. And CG are bound to rework Order of the Jedi at some point. I mean, they're not going to do all of them because the faction is enormous, and you would get ones that would just fly under the radar if you did all of them at once. So I would expect a steady rollout, because there's no way they can just leave them as they are. There's only a few that are actually usable, and even the chosen one, Anakin Skywalker, is largely hot trash. Thank you for your thoughts. I love reading your comments and interacting with the viewers. Now let's get on with today's top 5, the top 5 early Zetas. At number 5, we have Commander Luke Skywalker. I know some will say he isn't early game, but in all honesty he is. You can farm his required team immediately, and he returns every 3 months, so you can pick him up very early and in time for your first Zeta. It binds all things is the Zeta to go for, and it'll increase Luke's survivability. This allows him to single-handedly solo the heroic Rancor raid as well as phase 1 of the heroic AAT. With the release of Chewbacca and C-3PO, Luke is again arena viable, and none of his other Zetas are required there either. The Zeta itself can be used at level 85 and allows Luke to recover 5% protection whenever he resists a debuff. He'll also gain 10% turn meter when he inflicts a debuff, and allows his allies to gain half of that amount. This is the Zeta that will rapidly speed up your account's growth due to your high raid placements, and that is why it's my number 5. In at number 4 is Han Solo. Han is another character you will get very early in the game, as just about every guild can take down heroic Rancor these days. If your guild can't, then you really should be looking elsewhere, as just being a consistent 600 ticket earner is enough to get a spot. Han Zeta adds an additional 10% counter chance, and the first time each turn that he uses his basic attack, he'll attack again, dealing 50% less damage. This Zeta can be applied at just level 82, which is nice as the gap between levels once into the 80s significantly widens. You can potentially get use out of this Zeta and have enough time to save up for Luke's by the time you reach level 85. While Han can be plugged into a Commander Luke team in both Heroic Rancor and Heroic AAT, Han is also useful in his own right. Many teams have made use out of Han due to the fact he'll shoot first in any fight and stun his target. Synergy often goes out the window in many cases, and most people just throw Han in to solve the problem of being slower than the enemy. With Han now having his Millennium Falcon confirmed as arriving soon, the Zeta will also boost the ship's stats. At number 3 is Finn. The beauty of Finn's Zeta is he doesn't need to be any higher than Gear 8 and is capable of soloing the entire heroic AAT. Finn's leadership is also one of the easier ways to complete Galactic War before you're up to the simmable threshold, and again the entire team can still be Gear 8. Up until the release of Jedi Ray, Finn was the only option for Resistance fans and still remains incredibly viable today. With the ability to defeat considerably stronger teams than your own by simply freezing them where they stand, Finn is a low-level player's dream come true. His Zeta grants Resistance allies advantage for 2 turns whenever they lose Foresight, and it also reduces their cooldowns by 1, granting them 35% turn meter whenever an enemy takes damage from Expose. The trick is to pair Finn with Poe, who will spread exposes and reduce enemy turn meter while throwing in the likes of Resistance Trooper and any 2 other Resistance members. Once the expose train begins, your enemy can pretty much do nothing but stand there and die. The only real drawback is the team isn't good on defense, but with all its other uses and the fact the Zeta can be used at a lowly level 82, that's the reason Finn is my number 3. At number 2 is a personal favourite of mine, General Veers. Us longtime players remember back when the Trooper faction didn't even exist and none of the characters served any real purpose. There was a $4.99 beginners pack that contained either Savage, Veers or Dooku, and Veers was the one you didn't want to get. Now Veers would be the better option as his Zetas transformed his faction and turned him into an offensive wrecking machine. Another Zeta that can be used at level 82, Veers Unique allows Imperial Trooper allies to gain 10% protection up and guarantees them all offense up and 50% turn meter gain when they kill an enemy. Prior to the Zeta, they only had a chance at gaining the offense buff and the turn meter. With many great troopers available early, a team of Veers, Stark, Magma Trooper, Range Trooper and Snow Trooper could be put together very quickly to great effect. There isn't a team they're unable to beat besides Traya and Revan, and in an early shard they absolutely eat the Phoenix players alive. Once they have a guaranteed turn meter gain from the Zeta, troopers can crush any variation of Palpatine, regardless of a max speed Thrawn, Nest, Sith Trooper or even Traya being in the squad. With their ability to climb rapidly in Arena, a defensive team to hold would be perfect as the team is defensively poor, much like Finn's Resistance. Veers Zeta also comes in handy in almost every other area of the game. Territory battles, wars, Grand Arena, Heroic AAT, and even Heroic Sith. With a complete team being farmable and functional at level 40, as Snow Trooper can be starred in Bronziums, you'll be in a perfect position by level 82 to add the Zeta to a team that is required in Darkside territory battles anyway. With no other Zetas being required for the team, and being functional even if you opt for Thrawn lead, Veers offers an awful lot of value for players at any stage in the game. And at number 1, Bastila Shan. Much like Finn, Bastila doesn't need to be maxed out to get use from her Zeta. Even at Gear 8 and 3-star, her Zeta will absolutely transform her team and you'll immediately feel its effect in your arena climb. Her Zeta will add Taunt to any Jedi tag allies at the start of the encounter and adds 150% tenacity with protection up. This makes debuffing the team nigh impossible besides Isolate and Fracture. While it is possible to land a debuff before protection up is removed, it requires a fair bit of RNG to do so. On top of that, with her Jedi allies topping up the protection up buff, many teams will find themselves stuck in a loop while Grandmaster Yoda and Ezra devastate your ranks. The optimal lineup is considered Bastila, both Yodas, Ezra and General Kenobi, but there are other variations with Jolee, Ahsoka Fulcrum, Ayla Secura and Old Ben occasionally seen. Not only is this team still capable of breaking into the top 50 in an older shard, in an early shard you're likely to be among the very top ranks, unless you're unlucky enough to be placed with a Kraken who can buy their way to a Traya team until Revan returns. Bastila has very few hard counters. While an Imperial Trooper team and a Night Sister team can bump you, Bastila can easily hit them back and remain more secure defensively. Along with her fantastic arena viability, the team is capable of big damage in Heroic Sith Phase 2 as well as in Heroic AAT. You'll have no difficulty autoing your way through territory battles and Galactic War. you'll also have a defensive team for Grand Arena and Territory Wars that all but the more experienced players will be unable to topple. Available at level 84, this is the only Zeta her team needs. While adding one to both Yodas will further strengthen your team, it won't be essential to begin reaping the rewards. All of these Zetas are recommended regardless what level your account is because they are just fantastic Zetas that every level account should have. Much like we did at the start of this video, please leave your top 5 in the comments and I'll cover my favourite ones in the next episode of Top 5. Thanks for watching guys, hit the like and subscribe button, and if you'd like to support me further, I have a Patreon channel too. Take care and until next time, we out of here.